if you've been following me over the last 3 years, you know there are some people that just rub me the wrong way. Number one is Governor Whitmer, obviously, fighting with her over the last 3 years for everything that she's done to the state of Michigan. But number two, Trudeau. Now, I'm not even Canadian. I feel sorry for all my Canadian brothers and sisters who have to live underneath this communist ruler, because that's what he is. He's a gosh darn communist. I have good, close personal friends who actually left Canada because of the communist regime that has taken place there. And that guy left hungry to get away from communism. Then he had to leave again to get away from communism because Trudeau, dictator, right? So this made my morning to watch India just hammer Trudeau. So I hope you all enjoy this as much as I did.
Canadian Prime Minister, he's had, of course, a meeting with Prime Minister Modi, and this is what he's come out and said. Let me quote this. Both the issues came up. Over the years with PM Modi, we've had many conversations on both those issues. Canada will always defend the freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and freedom of peaceful protest. And it is extremely important to us. At the same time, we are always there to prevent violence and to push back against hatred. I think on the issue of the community, it is important to remember that actions of a few do not represent the entire community or Canada. The flip side of it, we have also highlighted the importance of respecting the rule of law, and we did talk about foreign interference. This is on the issue of Khalistan. So Justin Trudeau, let's listen in. Then I want to discuss what this fellow says.
Over the years with Prime Minister Modi, we've had many conversations on both of those issues. Obviously, Canada will always defend freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, freedom of peaceful protest. That's something that's extremely important to us. At the same time as we're always there to prevent violence, to push back against hatred.
So did he just say that they're going to protect freedom of speech and freedom of protest? Isn't this the same clown who was arresting people, arresting pastors, arresting people for going against the vaccine mandate that he administered? Unbelievable. Pot, meat, kettle. You can't make this stuff up, folks.
I think on the issue of the community, it's important to remember that the actions of the few do not represent the entire community or Canada. The flip side of it, we also highlighted the importance of respecting the rule of law, and we did talk about foreign interference.
Okay, so I'm going to now shed the diplomatics, because when something manifestly insane takes place in your face, there's no reason to be polite about it. Justin Trudeau has just shown you the finger when it comes to Khalistan. This man has just come after imposing an emergency in his country to crack down on the freedom of expression and the right to peaceful protest, and has just talked about the freedom of expression and the rule of law and the right to protest. Okay? Now, the truth is, Mr. Trudeau, like any good Punjabi, I have family in Canada, and I promise you, the nonsense that you're talking is emanating from sheer hubris, a total disconnected view of the world, where you think that we don't see what you're up to, we don't understand what you're up to, and you can continue behaving in a totally nonsensical fashion, talking nonsense. You imposed an emergency in your country, your father imposed an emergency in your country, your democratic credentials are under deep question, and if Khalistan is a problem, and if a Khalistan is to be created, it is more likely it is going to be created within the territorial boundaries of Canada. And let me add to that, we should become, or at least I will, become the biggest proponent of the independence of Quebec, which has been trying to secede from Canada for the longest period of time. And I have a big question on why the map of Canada should not be described as Canadian Occupied Quebec, COQ. Perhaps we should issue a map of the world as well. Complete nonsense. You've come out and spoken once again. You could have taken it seriously. You should have taken it seriously, but you didn't. Patikrit, this man, last time he came for a bilateral to India, showed up with a Khalistani in his entourage. What is going on? I mean, it's after a point, it's totally insane. You can't say it's domestic politics. You can't say he doesn't get it. You can't say that the emergency in Canada didn't happen. You were beating up truckers in Canada. You were freezing their bank accounts. I mean, what is this guy talking? Which world is he living in?
Absolutely 100%. Do you remember all that, folks? He's right. He was freezing people's assets because they were peacefully protesting. Remember the big truckers protest? Even our nanny governor in the state of Michigan was supporting Trudeau. That's the insanity of what's going on right now. So this has just been a great morning watching India just roast this guy. It just gets better. Listen in.
Rishabh, he's a perfect example of pseudo-liberal wokeism and how it is destroying a certain section of the West. He doesn't understand the difference between a peaceful protest and a civil unrest or an uncivil unrest with the placard of a terrorist. A terrorist who actually bombed a plane which killed a lot of Canadians. And he doesn't understand the difference between the two.
No, has he forgotten what happened in Lockerbie? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. And so, you know, when it comes to territorial integrity or sovereignty or respecting the sovereignty of a country, I don't understand where these guys lose the plot. Who has said that, you know, India is a country which has always, you know, thrived on the whole concept of democratic protest. We do not need to learn from Trudeau what that is. But the Khalistani issue that he has been propping up today, you are very right that tomorrow, see, there is no question, no chance, not an iota of possibility that a Khalistani would ever be created in Punjab or in India.
We live here, okay? Yeah. We live here, we know this. But that's just the fact on the ground, okay? There is no Khalistani movement here in India except for what the funding, and the funding isn't coming from Pakistan anymore, okay? Canada is the epicenter. But okay, so what do we do with this man? What's the point?
No,
what are we achieving here?
See, problem, Rishabh, is that let me tell you,
I'm sorry.
Incorrect.
Let me interject. Justin Trudeau and to the people living in Canada, including the very large Indian diaspora and the far greater Indian diaspora from my community, the Punjabis, that they're trying to seduce to come to Canada by making it, you know, by putting it all on a silver platter that please come and take away permanent residency for free. Mr. Trudeau, there is a reason that we are having bilateral meetings with everybody else and not with you. Okay? There's a reason for it. And stop inviting Indians to come and live in Canada, because eventually they will stop, because they don't want to live in Khalistan because there is no Khalistan in India. It's absolutely insane. I mean, it just infuriates you, this person who last time came and he was singing and dancing and making a joke of himself, you know, dressed in all sorts of costumes. That this guy who just imposed an emergency, Pratik, what is he smoking?
No, that is a very big question. And secondly, you know, your previous question, Rishabh, Canada as a country, with all due respect, is so insignificant that you can't even, you know, penalize them in any way. We don't have any trade with them. You know, they are so distant. So only thing we can do is that I would rather very be happy, as you rightly mentioned about freedom of Quebec. We should actually, you know, in the name of democratic protest, we should allow that. In the name of democratic discourse on future of how geopolitics should be played out, we should
let
do
the Canadians wonder, you know, is it okay then if there's a protest outside and somebody goes and rips down a flag of Canada from the top of the High Commission? I'm pretty sure the Canadian diplomats would find that deeply egregious. But who knows? I don't know how Justin Trudeau thinks, because him by his very definition, and now we know by his DNA, is a person who doesn't believe in democratic values. We all know what you've done, sir. And just because your American friends didn't haul you through hot coals over it. Imagine if Narendra Modi had imposed an emergency in India even for 2 weeks to quash some agricultural protest.
Even for 2 hours.
Imagine if that had happened. What would the world response be? And just because you got away with Justin Trudeau, you won't get away with us. I'm sorry, this just got my goat. Ambassador Mukherjee, he has come to Indian soil knowing full well that there are exponents in his country who are waging war against the Indian state, and he's accused us of foreign interference.
But first of all, Rishabh, his wife has just divorced him. His popularity polls are very low. The chances are he's not going to be Prime Minister for long. We should not raise our blood pressure about this insignificant man coming from this insignificant country, because if there will be a Khalistan, it will be in the little area called Surrey, close to where my sister lives in Vancouver. Because even in Vancouver, the Indian diaspora don't agree with this little spot called Surrey, where all these so-called Khalistanis live. So he should just rot where he is. We should prop up Quebec and we should just ignore him. We should not waste any time, Rishabh. We should not raise our BP about him. We should feel sorry that his wife has divorced him. We should
I was just when I was enjoying raising my BP about it. You once in a while I should raise my BP. I know news not noise, but sometimes you should get irritated enough. It's just too much.
Well, I have some advice for Mr. Trudeau. I don't think you should be vacationing anywhere near that country. I don't think they like you much. Just like the majority of our country right now, your time is very limited. My fellow grassroots army in Canada, stand up and vote that communist clown out. We in America, especially your neighbor from the South in Michigan, will be rooting for all of you to do just that. Remember, you are powerful beyond measure. Vote the clown out.